Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timi Kenza James. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to cut and sew a flare mini skirt. I will be using 2 yards of fabric, but you can use 1 yard if you want the skirt to be really short, but I don't want mine to be really short, so I will use 2 yards of fabric. You know this fabric from a previous video if you've been with me for a while. So I have this piece remaining, so I'll be using it today, and I'll be using a tape, a piece of chalk, a pair of scissors, and a fine iron. But before we go into the video proper, please do ensure to give me a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I have a new video up on the channel. I've gone ahead to fold it into 4 like this and giving it a good press. So for me to insert my measurement, I'll need the waist circumference of this person. I'm using a circumference of 27 plus 2 inches, which is 29. That 2 inches, I'll be using it for my zip allowance. Then I would need to calculate the radius of that circumference. Since we've established that our circumference is now 29, we'll do 29 divided by 6.28, which is the formula for calculating radius of a circumference. So 29 divided by 6.28 is 4.6. So I'm going to be inserting my 4.6 here. From this point here, I'll insert 4.6 like this and mark it 4.6. Take it round, 4.6 round here. So from this side now, I'm going to be adding the length of my skirt. The length, now I'm going to be using the total length of this fabric. I'll go like this. From this mark here, that's where I'm going to insert my length, which is, I have 17.5. I'm going to be adding a waistband, so plus the waistband, it will be 3 inches. 17.5 plus 3 inches will be 20.5. That will be the length, the total length of the skirt. So here you go, 17.5. I'll take it like that, round, 17.5. So I'll mark it properly. I believe you're seeing this blue chalk that I'm using. I had to use blue so that you can see it properly. So there you have it. This is the total length of your skirt. Don't forget, we are sewing a 360-degree flared skirt. So there it is. I'm going to cut it out now, but before I cut it out, I'm going to insert my seam allowance up here, which I'll just insert 1/2 inch. From where this mark is, I will insert 1/2 inch round, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch round. Just go ahead and mark it out properly. Then I'll cut my skirt out now. Cut this side out. There you go. This is my skirt. So I'm going to open one of the sides. I'll slit it open because that will be where I'll be inserting my zipper. So I'll use this side. I'll cut it open like this. So here you go. You have your 360-degree skirt. So I have this piece of fabric remaining that I cut out the flare from. So I have it still folded in half. So I'm going to cut out my waistband from it. To cut my waistband, remember I told you my waistband will be 3 inches wide. So instead, because I'm going to have it on fold like this, I'm going to cut out 8 inches, which is 3 inches plus 3 inches on the other side, 6 inches, then 2 inches for folding it in, folding the waistband in, which will be 8 inches. So I'm taking 8 inches long like this, 8 inches like this, 8 inches like this. Then I'm going to rule it into a straight line. I'll get my ruler. I forgot to tell you earlier that you need a ruler, so I'm going to get my ruler, rule it out. Then I'm supposed to use 29 inches, but I just have the excess. I'll trim off the excess later, so I'll cut it out. I'll just go ahead and give it a good press in half. There you go. Go ahead and iron it properly. You can actually add a few into this, or an interfacing, whatever. You can add it to this to give it stability, but this skirt is just for reference purposes. It's just for this video, so I'm not going to be adding that. So I've gone ahead to cut the waistband to be 29 inches long, and on this side is 4 inches. The width is 4 inches, but because we need 3 inches, I made 4 inches for sewing allowance. I'm using 1 inch for the sewing allowance. So I also went ahead to cut a lining piece. I did the exact same thing as I did to the fabric on the lining. I just replicated the skirts on the lining piece. So I'm going to show you how to join these skirts now. So you look for the right side of the fabric. You place the right side of the fabric like this. Open it up. You remember we slit open the flap, so you open it up. You open the lining piece also. The right side of the lining piece should be on top of the right side of the fabric, so which means this side will be the wrong side. The side facing me on the lining piece is the wrong side, so the two right sides are the sides that are inside. This my lining that I'm using does not really have a right side or a wrong side, but I just said that so in case you're using a lining piece that has right side and wrong side. So I'm going to go ahead and sew on the lower part of the fabric. I'll sew the flap down on the lower part of the fabric, and I'll come back to show you. So there you go. You join it like this. Put on your machine. So after sewing the lining together with the fabric on the hemline, I'm going to go ahead and snip the edges so that it will ease tension when I come to turn it over. So I'm going to cut through the both pieces. Take it very close to the seam line, but make sure you don't cut through the seam line. I'm going to go and do that. I'll just do that round the entire seam. Then I'll come back to top stitch. So after snipping it, I'm going to open it up so that I can top stitch it. So I'm not starting from this side, because if I open it up, I'm going to top stitch on my fabric. So I'll turn it to the other side, to the other extreme of the flap. So here you go. You would want to open it like this so that the lining piece will be at the right side, at your right side, and the fabric piece will be at the left side. Now you place it on your sewing machine, then you take all the seam allowances to rest on the lining piece. Note, all your seam allowances will rest on your lining piece because that's where you want it, you want your top stitch seam to be on. You don't want it showing on your garment. That's why you take it to the lining piece before you sew. You can see here is my seam allowance. I'm putting it on my lining piece, and you make sure as you're sewing, this side is not folding up or this side folding up, your lining piece folding up like this. They are laid flat like this. Everything is flat. That's how you want to sew it. So you just go ahead and sew. As you're sewing, you'll be spreading the both fabrics apart so that you make sure they are lying flat. Another one is not double crossing on another. That's how you go and you sew. You try as much as possible for your seam line to be straight and even, to make it more beautiful and not rough. So I'll just go ahead and do that completely, and I'll show you what it looks like. So after top stitching, I've gone ahead to give it a nice clean press. I ironed it. If you can see, this is my top stitching line here. I've ironed it. You see the outside is neat, the inside part of it is also neat. Everything is nice and clean. Here's the outside, here's the inside. So what I'm going to be doing now is to add my waistband before inserting my zip. In adding my waistband, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sandwiching the waistband in between the lining piece and the fabric piece. So here you go. Here's my waistband. I'll be sandwiching it like so. I'll put it like this. I'm going to get pins and pin them all round and show you. So I've gone ahead to pin my waistband together with my fabric. I moved the lining piece away, so I'll flip the lining piece from being like this, as you can see it like this. I'm going to turn it over like this and bring it to the other side like this. Let me repeat that again so that you can see. Here is how my lining piece is together with my fabric. So I've pinned my waistband to the main fabric. So I'm turning over the lining piece like this, turn it over and bring it like this so I can sandwich the fabric together with my lining piece. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll flip the skirt over like this, then I'll go ahead and sew like that so I can fix my waistband. Bring it over to the machine like this, and you have to be careful as you're fixing this. You're taking out your pins, or if you wish, when you flip it over, you can pin it over the lining and this thing, but make sure the waistband is sandwiched in between the lining and the fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew a little bit above half an inch, but not up to 1 inch. That's what I'm going to do throughout. Let's go ahead and sew it, then I'll return to show you. So I've gone ahead to sew it like this. I've sandwiched the waistband inside, so I'm going to use this zip side to flip it over. I'll use it to flip it over like this. can see here's the right side. The waistband has been added, and you can see there are no raw edges, no rough side. Even the inside and the outside, everything is nice and clean. So here you go. So you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead now and close this place up and add a zip. So I'll just go ahead and measure out my zip length. I want the zip to be 8 inches. So I'm going to measure out 8 inches from the waistband up here. You remember up here, then I'll just give that side a snip so I can know. So I'm going to sew from there down to close up the back side of the skirt. So I'll take it over to my sewing machine and sew from there with 1 inch, using 1 inch sewing allowance, because if you remember we had 2 inches for our zip allowance, so 1 inch on both sides. So I'm just going to go, then I'll back stitch to reinforce my stitches, back stitch like twice to reinforce my stitches. Then I'll take that 1 inch all through the down part of the skirt like this. When I get to the end, I'll back stitch properly like 2 to 3 times to ensure that it's secured and neat. Cut out any excess thread on your fabric. Cut that out to keep your fabric clean. You can trim off these edges that are a bit rough. You can go ahead and trim them. Then I'll show you how to fix a zip. But before then, let's see how our skirt is coming. So as you can see, it's quite pretty. I'm going to go ahead and insert the zip. So voila, here is the finished look of our flare mini skirt. Isn't this pretty? Just look at that. You can rock this to a party, you can rock it to an evening outing, you can rock this to a picnic or whatever. This is so pretty. Please, if you replicate this, tag me on your work. Let me see what you have. And this is lovely. I mean, this is so pretty. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to get informed whenever I have a new video on the channel. See you in my next video. Bye.